listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, we're back for another week. Ooh, I'm out of the camera range. You definitely want to see me in all my glory. Here we go, right in front of the little black piece of tape that Taylor helpfully puts in front of us. There we go. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk today with Jeff Kelly about real estate and the rates and what scares him at night and last time he cried and, his favorite color and whatever else. Is you good for that?
Yes. Last night about 8:30 was the last time I cried.
You about the Chiefs losing? Oh. I was kind of ambivalent on the game. You know, I watched it like everybody else. It's like every Sunday morning I say, I ain't watching the Cowboys today, but it'll be on the TV, you know, and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You're just so ingrained in your pattern and your habits. Well, I think I have missed one Super Bowl, you know, that I just said I'm not going to watch it. But, you know, most of the time I say, oh, I'm here, I'll turn it on and whatever else and see who the Chiefs are playing this year.
Right.
You know, and so it's like with the Patriots, with Brady's like, who are the Patriots playing now?
Right.
Anyway, I used to really hate the Eagles, but that's when I used to love the Cowboys. And so my enthusiasm for Dallas is declined. So is my animosity towards Philadelphia or Washington or New York. So,
it's so hard to win. You know, how do you not root for somebody that's as good as they were this year?
Oh, they beat the brains out of the Chiefs. So they deserved it. Yep. I mean, the Eagles were the best team. There's none of this, you know, silly stuff about, you know, they lucked into it. They were the best team by far. But we're going to also talk about what's going on in Burleson or the Johnson County area, really, because you sell more than just Burleson.
Right.
Yeah. What percentage would you say you sell outside of the city limits or the jurisdiction of Burleson?
Probably more because I've always done so much stuff, rural business and suburban. So probably more in the county or even in the fringe of that than I do in the actual city.
Really? Well, the city, you know, is so much smaller than people think. I mean, they think Burleson is all this, you know, spread out, but really the ETJ is pretty considerable.
Right.
Anyway, so you do a lot of stuff like in Cleburne and Joshua in that area?
Yeah, Cleburne, Joshua, Alvarado, Venus. Mm-hmm. I've done a ton of stuff in Venus, and Venus is kind of a sleeper over there.
Yes, it is. You go down 67. I've done that a few times. It's like, wow, that's new. Mm-hmm. And we remember Venus is like, I mean, what was it? It was just a
blinking light. Yeah,
reference point on the map, maybe.
Yep. And
that's about it. And same with Godley.
Yep.
And look what's going on now. I mean,
Godley is a thriving metropolis now.
Yeah. I have Greg Cooper on in a couple of weeks. He's from Godley, lives in Godley, and they definitely have growing pains.
Right.
Do you, as a realtor, you know, get clued in on what's going on with the so-called growing pains of communities? I mean, you have to keep track of what's going on.
You know, you try to, but they're all going through it right now.
Yeah.
You know, they can, you know, go in and take these old cow pastures and turn them into 800 rooftops before you know it. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for these schools and municipalities. You know, it takes forever to create enough tax revenue to cover that.
Oh, when I was growing up, when I was 12, my dad, we're all Oklahomans and Texans and all that. We moved to Charlotte, North Carolina for a while, and then about a year and a half. And then we came back. And so we had lived in Richardson. We moved to Plano.
Right.
Plano was like 15,000 people, but it was blowing up even then.
Right.
And, I went to elementary school in a school that was incomplete because they had to have the space. So basically they didn't have like the cafeteria stuff done, and they had to adopt this open classroom concept because they just had so many kids that they couldn't keep up with the, enough personnel.
They basically just kept the rain and snow off of you that year.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. And basically, if you didn't bring a lunch, you had to pay for like a sack lunch and that kind of thing. And they were building schools all over the place. And what's ironic is I read in the paper about 3 months ago that former elementary school that I went to is being closed by Plano ISD.
Yep. Because
of demographic trends. So, believe me, there was no tears shed. I mean, good old Davis Elementary, I'm okay.
Right. Yep.
But let's talk about our sponsors because they're okay too, doggone it.
Some of them.
Hey, all of them. All but one. Yeah, okay. And we're not talking about auto, are you?
No.
Okay, just making sure.
No.
Okay, at our place, as always, is a great place to go. I like to go there in Gina's to do business. Depends on the schedule of my appointment, and who's what fits their schedule best and things like that. But I really do like our place because you know what you're going to get, and it's going to be good. And you walk in there, and I've been going there enough now that I walk in and they have such a consistent service crew that they know you, they know what you want, they know enough about you to ask questions about how's the kids or whatever else, that kind of thing. And it's a nice place.
There's some really nice restaurants here, and a couple of them, I won't name them, but I have never seen the same help in there 2 times in a row. They just turn over.
Yeah. You don't need to name that.
Right,
I thought you were going to be complimentary. No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But same with Gina's. We were there last Tuesday, and of course it was great.
Right.
And then 2 days later, went there for another business appointment, and there was the man himself. So Gina's has always been kind of a staple here in Burleson. It's been around for 50 years, and Otto took it over and really did something with it. I mean, it's really improved, I think. Taylor, why is the screen not moving forward? Are you so busy over there? He's got phone calls. Hey, don't give me that look. All right.
I gave you a thumbs up.
Oh, okay. I thought you did me something else. Okay.
No.
All right. Anyway, but thank you, Otto, for all the hospitality. Also, Wild Cigar and Culture. I was there about 8 or 9 days ago. I go by customer care, if you want to call it that, and talked with Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
They had a big Super Bowl deal yesterday. I don't know how it went, but it probably went fine because it's you go there, you want to watch the game with friends and all this, get a smoke or whatever from the humidor and have a good time and all this other stuff. But it's not rowdy, it's not noisy, it's not a bunch of hoodlums, not all the guys yelling and hollering. It's a pretty calm crowd to go and watch a game with. I watched a couple of Ranger games there, and I like it because, you're not competing with 19 different TVs and all this other stuff, But thank you, Nathan, for all what you do.
I was excited to hear that they're thinking about doing something that's smoke-free there. Any kind of smoke really bothers me. So I was glad to hear that they were going to...
Like a smoke-free area?
Yes.
I've heard that too, but I didn't want to... I'll let you tell them, but I didn't want to commit them to it just yet.
Right.
But, I know that they understand that, the cigar smoke is an acquired taste, if you will.
Yep.
And you walk in there and it's not all dense with smoke and whatever else, but it does have that aroma.
Oh, yeah. They've got a state of the art.
Yeah. It's not like some joint with, or anything like that with smoke hanging in the ceiling. No, it's well ventilated. But it does have the aroma.
Yep.
And for the people that go there, that's all good. It's fine. It's wonderful.
That's what they're after.
But my dad smokes cigars, so I'm used to it, so there you are. Also, thank you to Southern Jim, of course. They got a big deal this week. It's Valentine's. I'm sure you've taken Mrs. Kelly there, haven't you?
Yep.
Have you really? I mean, for Valentine's?
We went to the open house that she had in December, and my wife ran across this ring that she really wanted. And so... Anyway, we kind of played a little trick on my wife. I told her, I checked, and that ring is $6,000. We're not buying a $6,000 ring. She's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it wasn't really $6,000, so I handed my friend that works there my credit card. Said, just go ahead and ring that thing up. I'll pick it up tomorrow.
Which friend works there?
Michelle.
Michelle, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So did that, and she had no idea until Christmas Day when we opened presents, and there was that ring.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness. I guess you got a very affectionate handshake that day.
Sure did.
And that's good. That's
got to come. I get to sleep in the regular room now instead of the back room.
That's good. Yeah, it's good. Yep. Yeah. Robin be working there. She's like, oh, I want this, I want that. I'm like, we are trying to break even on this deal, aren't we?
Right.
That kind of thing. But she has very nice jewelry, of course. And she has an all price range. She has some pretty expensive stuff, and she has some very affordable stuff.
Right.
So it's not like, if you have to have a big wallet just to get something decent there. So they got stuff there that's in my budget, as Robin always reminds me.
Right.
On to the next one before I spend more money than I make. But anyway, Old Pro Roofing, John Williams, 817-734-2756. I have no concern at all about this monsoon that's supposed to be coming the next 24 hours because he told me my roof is in good shape. And I always have them inspected about every June. He tells me that's a very important thing to have your roof constantly inspected because, it didn't cost anything. He'll come out there and if your roof's fine, thanks for having me out. But if it does need some repairs, he'll tell you. And do you need help with the insurance companies, which is getting to be more and more of a hassle.
Right.
He told me which ones he just dreads when he has to deal with, but I'm not going to say that on the air, of course, but he told me a couple that he really likes working with, including the one that I have, Texas Farm Bureau. So he says those people work pretty well, and I could vouch for that because
Me too.
You have a Farm Bureau?
Yes.
Who's your agent?
Luke Rickenstein.
I met him just recently.
Same.
Yep.
Yeah. But mine is Melissa Harmon.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it was nice because I had this problem back in June, and to have a local agent was nice. I don't know how we got on promoting Melissa on John's dime, but he doesn't mind. He's such a good-natured fellow. But anyway, they're good people to work with, and as is Old Pro. So have him come check your roof out when it gets dry, and he'll tell you if you have issues or not.
Roofs come up on almost every single real estate deal that we do.
Oh, yeah.
One way or the other.
Yeah, that foundations, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and dad live in Corsicana, and they moved to a smaller house and are trying to sell their old house. And that's the first thing that inspectors look at is the roof and then the foundation.
Absolutely.
And, and if you have an issue with either one, it's going to gum up the works,
right?
Which is exactly what's happened with my parents. That area of Corsicana has some unstable soil.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and so they have to, get it inspected routinely and that kind of thing. But here you are, 817-781-0546. The phone rings off the hook, no doubt. Jeff at jeffkellyrealty.com. We're going to get more into how busy you are. Hopefully you're busy and things of that nature. With the Wethington agency, I saw on the cover of Local Life, which is coming up next, I believe, on the roster here. Local Life, y'all, and I saw Shandy there.
Right.
And the whole crew from the Wethington agency.
Most of the crew.
Yep. Okay. So go on to Local Life, please.
You skipped this one.
Oh, I did, didn't I?
I was waiting for you to go in order. I was waiting for you to say it.
I was going to go back to Hot Works.
There you go. You're always
all
right.
I was going to go back to Michelle. I'm not going to stiff her. I just thought it'd make a nice segue.
That's fine.
All right, like Local Life magazine. I saw the cover, and there you are. You're standing in the back and all this other stuff. But y'all, a lot of people don't know how this works. Working for an agency, you are kind of still free agents of sorts.
Absolutely. Every single one of us is a 1099 contractor.
Yeah.
But we're required to be under a broker in Texas. You're either a broker or the broker or a salesperson.
Yeah.
And so we all have to, everybody has to work for a broker.
Right. It reminds me similar to like my wife's salon. They all are independent operators, but they all work under one heading, and they have somebody they deal with, I suppose. But the Wethington agency is this. Now this is the one that's over in the B&G building, right?
This is the one we are actually.
I've got it confused. Sorry, with another one.
Right.
Yeah.
We're currently in the building. How do I explain it to you?
It's on Renfro, right?
It is
across from Promises Community.
It's right behind QT.
QT, the gas station. That's what I was thinking in my head. I don't know how I got B&G, but I drive by it all the time.
Right.
Okay. Now you can go back to Hot Works.
Little switcheroo.
I know. Thank you, Michelle. Hot Works. I didn't forget you. Doggone it. Don't worry about it.
If you forget her, she'll put you in the hot box.
In my hot box, yeah.
7 days.
Yeah. Oh boy, see, Taylor got some new toys.
I saw that.
Yeah. But you got 11 different workouts, and so you'll find something that fits your needs, your desires, whatever else. Some people like to, use cardio. Some people just like to ride the bike. Some people want to do Pilates and all this other business. And so she got it for you in this nice, secure environment. It's a great place to go 24/7. So, and she knows a lot about fitness. So even if you have questions about like what kind of workout and whatnot, if you talk to her or her staff, they can tell you, well, this is what you need to be doing or not doing and that kind of thing. So
that heat is really good for people who have joint problems. I'm starting to have some of that.
Oh, I'm older than you, and I can tell you what's heading your way.
Yep.
You wake up in the morning, you step on the ground, like every bone in my body hurts.
Sounds like you're stepping on bubble wrap.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, exactly. And Burleson Buzz, we met last Thursday, Cody O'Brien and I. He's doing a profile on me for Burleson Buzz. Isn't that nice of him?
That's cool.
Well, I'm also telling you nice things about Burleson Buzz on the air, too, so that helps. I threatened him. So anyway, if you want to catch up what's going on in local Burleson stuff, he's a good guy to talk to or listen to. Well, he doesn't have a podcast yet. He's thinking about it, but he also has the blog that comes out usually at least once a week. twice a week sometimes. It depends on what's going on in the town. But he's always good for what's going on at the schools or city council.
Right.
So let's talk about you. Let's talk about you in the real estate business. Not to get too political, but I've talked to a couple other brokers or real estate agents, and they said that business is picking up, and they attribute some of that to the change in administration in Washington. Is that an accurate statement?
Almost to the day, as soon as the election happened, we got a big jump in business, and it could be because of who got elected, and it could be that, hey, we've got this behind us. We know where we're going now. And so we had a big influx of buyers, which we didn't have, the last quarter of the year, which is normally buyers slow anyway, but it seems like the buyers are back.
Well, that's good, because I was talking, like I said, to a couple of your colleagues in the industry, and they were completely dead in November and December. They were basically no business at all. And the same thing was happening with Candy Gal over at Camco Mortgage Brokers. They had no business. Now I see Candy and then one of your colleagues at my B&I meeting, and business is picking up. That's what they say. And I just wonder if Trump had anything to do with that, or just, okay, now we're behind it. I don't want to get too political on your show, but I do believe that had Ms. Harris won, it would not have been good for the real estate industry because, all the restrictions and everything they put and the things they allow, in terms of like some of these cities with their not my backyard syndrome, and that kind of thing. So I don't know how much Trump is responsible for, but I think the idea that we're going to have less of a regulatory overhang probably loosened up some of this. That's just my opinion. Of course, I'm getting on Facebook a lot of requests to talk about Trump directly, and I will. I will on my show, and not without a guest. I don't want to tag guests with my opinion, so to speak. But it is picking up.
Seems to be, and I had a really good year last year, but it was 95% sellers, people selling their properties, and then very few buyers. And then to get that after the election, I wound up closing 3 buyers that I hadn't even really spoken to. Here's early in the year.
Here's what always struck me during the COVID period. It was definitely if you were selling a house, you're going to get a bonus almost. Do people who bought those houses at those inflated prices, I wonder if they regret it now, because now, I mean, the rates were low, but their home prices are very high. So and you can't refinance the purchase. I've told people in the show, you've told me this, and Candy Gal told me this, and others told me this. Buying a house at 7% may be prohibitive now, but you can always refinance. But once you pay for the house, that's it, sunk cost. Right.
The rate that you pay is the one thing that you actually have control over. If you pay $20,000 over list for a house, is a refinance even going to help you? And if the people that did that, and then decided to move on later, it was, it's not like it kept going up 10 or 15% a year. It went back to normal. And now you'll see a lot more properties. You'll see a property come up for lease and like, man, that's an awfully nice house to be for lease. And it's somebody with their 3% interest rate that either doesn't want to sell it now, or can't, or somebody that just overpaid because they had to.
Well, it's like my sister and brother-in-law. They lived in Arlington, and right next to Mansfield, right off 157. And they put their house on the market. They're going to move to Corsicana near my parents. This is about, let me say, right at the tail end of the COVID era. And they had an open house on Sunday, and they had 4 offers that day. And all 4 of them, this is even before it was listed, right? They had 4 offers, and every one of them were over asking price. So they banked hard. They got a great deal. All right. And they got a lot of extra money. Now, if they want to do that again to sell their house in Corsicana, which they're not talking about, but if they did, it'd be a different market entirely, right?
It's a completely different market. You would, our average days on market here are 105 now.
Really?
In Burleson. And probably even longer.
105 days. Okay. That, over 3+ months, right? What was it going for maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and then going almost, like I said, even before listing?
Technically 14, 15, 16 days.
Why is it slower?
Not as much buyer demand, for one thing.
Well, that's what's happened to my mom in Corsicana. They're trying to sell that house in Corsicana, right? And it's a nice house. But, 5 years ago, if they were trying to sell it, they probably would have sold it already. But it's been listed now for about a month, and they've had like 2 lookers.
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with the house. I mean, they need some minor stuff done. Everybody sells a house, or you're selling a used house, right?
Right.
So there's always something. But you know, their agent has said that Corsicana listings would be on for about 2 or 3 weeks. Now it's 2 or 3 months before you could get some serious action on it. It must be frustrating, though.
The frustrating part is because people, nobody remembers when I started in 2009, it took 5 or 6 months to get one sold.
Right.
Everybody's forgotten that, thank goodness.
Right.
And then everybody remembers put it on the market on Thursday and pick 4 offers on Monday evening, and you're done.
A friend of yours may be watching, Erica Hirsch. Is that one of her? She with you in the agency?
No.
Not just an acquaintance?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
But anyway, they have my parents I'm talking about, they fret a bit because they saw what happened to my sister. Boom, it's gone, right? And I've been told I could sell my house fairly quickly because I got a great location and I got a really good neighborhood, and I'm just outside the city limits, so I don't have to deal with city taxes and all that other business. But I don't know. Moving is such a beating. I have no
It's
desire.
the worst.
It is. I mean, when my daughter was moving out of her house, I mean, it's like stuff was coming out of the woodwork. Dad had to pack.
Right.
You don't realize just how much stuff you have until you have to pack it.
All of it at once.
At
Absolutely.
once. Oh.
When you bring it in onesie twosie over the years, it's not a big deal. But then when it all has to go.
Is Burleson at the 105 days average, is that typical this area, or are we going a little slower than, say,
it's actually
Fort Worth or whatever?
It's kind of in line with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, so
it's just, it takes that long. And if you look at the graph, I mean, it's just a slow incline over the last year that it's come up. But you don't see prices going down, so it's not pushing the price down.
So there's more houses available now than, say, 12 months ago.
A few more.
But so we're not talking about like a glut on the market.
No.
Okay. Well, I always, what I've been telling people on the show, I hope I've been telling them accurately, is this area is still in demand. People are moving not just from like California and all that, but they're moving from Fort Worth or, some of the mid-cities area because it's getting really crowded and really expensive, and the taxes, et cetera, et cetera. And some people would like a little space. And they moved to Burleson.
You can still do that here.
Right. And this whole Johnson County area still has a little space. And in Cleveland, they're gonna have a boom in building pretty soon because they're that Amazon plant, that Amazon dispersal warehouse on the Tollway and Nolan Ryan, I believe.
Right. And the city is super interested in bringing some business over there. And a lot of these small towns, it seems like they just kind of get set in their ways and they don't really want that. And, like here, it didn't matter. They're coming. We got to figure out how to deal with them.
Well, how long have you lived in the Burleson area?
Since 2005, I've lived here.
Well, I lived here longer, but how? Okay, then how long have you been associated with Burleson? Then maybe it's a better
since '98.
Okay, yeah, that's probably so. You've been around right at the beginning of the building,
right?
When I moved here in '88, well, I didn't move here. I started teaching here. It was a pretty different town, and everybody will tell you that's been around. And I moved here in '91 when I moved to the high school and I was teaching the classes I wanted to teach. I said, this is where I'm going to plant myself because, even if I'm not native to here, I've been teaching in a good school district classes I really like. So, I'm not going to do better than this. I can still afford to live here. But there was an element in the city council at that time that was very, very reluctant, to say the least, for various reasons, to let new enterprises come in. And the story I heard, and this is just talk, I don't have the data, but if you go down Crowley Road further, there's a big industry there, Harkins and something or other. I forget what it's called now. They wanted to build in Burleson, and Burleson was not hospitable to their demands. So
Didn't want them.
So they built them in Crowley.
Right.
I forget what it's called. I'm sure some of the old timers can remember the name, but I also remember they had in '94 a recall election, and they replaced some of the city council people.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was '94. It was early '90s, and also you had a change in cycling through the city council people, and they became a bit more hospitable. Plus, some of the big landlords who had given land to their kids weren't quite as reluctant to sell it when the profits are there. And I tell you, I say this in a kind of jokingly, but it really is true. What really, I think, spurred a lot of business development was Chili's and all those restaurants.
Absolutely,
on the highway.
when all that came in.
Yeah, and then people thought, wow, we're really expanding. No, Fort Worth is expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what brought in across the street with Kohl's and Applebee's and the long lamented Borders bookstore. I did like that.
Yeah, I
place.
remember hanging out in Borders.
Yeah. And all these, and then when they changed the alcohol laws to allow for restaurants to move in without having to do with, cards.
Private clubs.
Yeah. And all that rot. It really did change. But, and there are some people that still lament that we're not an old country town anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, but it's just not feasible.
Right. They're just too close to the action now.
Yeah. How many people you talk to want to live in Burleson, but they actually work in Fort Worth or somewhere similar? A lot of your clients are
a ton of people.
Yeah. They don't want to live in an urban environment. They may work in one, but they want to live in a more neighborhood friendly area.
Right. Kind of the small town feel is super appealing.
Okay. Well, let's say somebody contacts you who has no connection to Burleson. They're moving in from out of state. And what is the first things they ask for when they ask about Burleson? What is the first thing they look at?
It may not be what they asked for, but it's what they've been researching.
Yeah.
And kind of their hot buttons are always schools, the safety. The crime rate is still low here.
Police, yeah.
Right. And then you can do anything here.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive to, 20 minutes out of your way to go to a decent sized supermarket or, buy a pair of Nike shoes or whatever. You can do everything here.
Well, that's true because when Rob and I moved here, there was like 3 restaurants that weren't drive-throughs, and they were buffets
and a few mom and pops, and that was it.
Not even that really. We didn't have as many of those as one might think. And as far as going to the grocery store, there's besides Bransom's, they had like a Minyards and they had Winn-Dixie, and they're long gone.
Right.
And City Market's going to be gone soon, and that's an interesting conversation on Facebook, but I don't want to get into it. But I've been told by more than one realtor that if they have kids, schools are number one on the hit parade.
Yep.
And police are right behind them, other emergency services.
Right.
And if you don't have those, it doesn't matter what else your city's offering. It could be, Las Vegas or whatever, it didn't matter what kind of restaurants and grocery stores and boutiques you have. If those 2 things aren't satisfied, then they're going to move
Nobody
on.
wants to live there.
Yeah.
That's the places that people are moving away from.
Yeah.
Or never get out of.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Well, I want to say particularly when they built the second edition of Burleson High School, over off Elk.
Right.
That's when we started noticing a lot of pickup from people from Crowley and Everman.
Okay.
A bunch. All right. And as far as other from around the county, it wasn't like nearly as intense, but we would get some from Cleburne and some from Alvarado, but it wasn't like it was coming from the north.
Right.
Fort Worth, Crowley, Everman. It seemed like we just they opened the floodgates for quite a while, and they started building maybe homes that were more affordable.
Right.
Like that little housing addition just north of the Burleson High School, and it did change not just the demographics, but the size of our district, and it changed the responsibilities of the district because we were dealing with so many different type of students now, other than your typical students.
Right. It's a lot more diverse.
Not just diverse racially, but diverse
economically, right.
Educationally. We were dealing with more students that needed services of some kind, and so it was interesting times. Still is. But I knew the schools were the first ones.
That's the biggie, and then everybody wants to live in a safe neighborhood or a safe community,
right? And I believe very strongly that we have a very good first responder system here. The police, the fire,
there's
EMT,
no doubt about it.
All that. Now, when they give me a ticket, I'm not so excited, but still, any encounter I've had, even if the police give me a ticket, it's always been an appropriate encounter.
Yep. They're pretty laid back here,
but professional.
Yep.
We're not there. We don't got these cowboys with badges and then this other business, and we don't have firemen that are thrill seekers. They just want to serve.
Right.
And it's fortunate because not every community can say that.
That's true.
Yeah. So
most of them are way behind.
Well, and it is I'm going to have the mayor on tomorrow, and we're going to talk about these things, what the pressure of a growing community is putting on the city. I can tell you the number one issue that they hear, Victoria's told me this, Mayor Fletcher's told me this, is streets. You know, not just building new ones, but repairing the old ones. So, but when you got people moving in, I don't know if they're looking at the streets so much, are they?
Not really.
No,
That's just kind of something you figure out after you've been there for a while and listen to all the complaining about it. But you just moved so many people to an area in a short amount of time. And it's just like all the roads out in the county when all these water trucks started running around.
Boy.
There's not a road in this county that was ever built to handle anything with that much weight on it.
Right.
Maybe a tractor or a combine going down the road is about to have, and then they're running all those over weight, and it just destroyed the road infrastructure in the county.
714 is a disaster
All
now.
of them.
And see, I use 714 to go from one side of town to the other side because Wilshire is so blocked up. And I've talked about this at length with city council people and others, related to the city. And God bless them, they're doing what they can. But, the growth is very much outpacing our ability to match it with infrastructure. It just takes infrastructure always has to catch up. And,
it just takes a while. And they're doing things, impact fees and things like that they do with developers to kind of help get the ball rolling with that kind of thing. But it's just it's a long-term endeavor.
Yeah. I have Victoria on in about 3 weeks, and I'll be asking her, and it's kind of funny, her reaction. So how are the streets of Burleson? And I was, like, you too? That kind of stuff.
It's a concern, but it's just part of growing pains, I guess.
It is. When people move here, do they want to live in the city of Burleson or more out in the county?
It's more, everybody aspires to have the half-acre, 1 acre lot with the nice house, and that is the aspiration.
Right.
And so that's where the bulk of my business with buyers has always been, kind of that little, I don't want to say niche, but that niche of people.
Well, not so much unincorporated land, but because like I'm in an ETJ with Burleson, but I'm not in Burleson.
Right.
And because they changed the laws about a decade ago about annexing property, I'm probably never going to be in Burleson, and I'm fine with that.
Right.
The only disadvantage, I can't vote. And sometimes I wish I could, but there you go. I also don't pay city taxes, so I can't complain. So, but when we were moving out here in '91, Burleson really didn't have a housing community within the city limits like Oak Valley.
Right.
Oak Valley then was much smaller and much older. We didn't have even that area around Taylor Elementary. We didn't have. Where's another location? Well, we didn't have many housing developments at all. And so when Rob and I were looking, if we wanted to move, you had two choices. Either if you want to live in a bigger house at the cliffs, or it had to be a smaller house, or you lived in the country.
Right.
Oh, there's Alex Phillips. Good morning. Oh, and Alex has had good news about his prognosis. He had to have a biopsy done.
Right.
And it's good news, so thank the Lord for that. Thank you, Alex, for dropping by and letting us share your good news with the community. He could tell you all about the business growth. I mean, and he comes on about once a quarter and tells us what's going on, what he can tell us.
Right.
Anyway, but so most of your business is out in the county or not incorporated communities like Burleson or Cleveland.
Yeah, just outside the city limit and a lot of stuff in the county.
My goodness, my sinuses are working on me today. Every time the
Me too.
Well, it's just weather change.
Weather change.
Yeah. But anyway, so is there a difference in dealing with real estate in the county as versus the city? On your end of it,
you've got to know about the septics and lots of easement problems and things like that come up that you don't really have to deal with in town.
Right, septic systems. I wouldn't give a shout out to Burleson Septic because we had some septic issues. I mean, it's an older model, so it's been around for about 25 years.
Yeah,
and so they had to come and do some work on it. They did a great job.
Yep, they're good people. Thomas
and Carl, that's who it was. Yeah, they did a good job, and it really did. And so one less thing, but that is the thing about living in the country is that some of the things that you have to deal with the city would take care of.
Right.
But you have to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get Burleson police out there. I have the county.
Right.
And unless I'm, got a gun to me, the county is going to, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
We've only had to call the county one time, and it was a minor thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't an emergency situation. I'll put it that way. And say, well, if it's not an emergency, we'll get there when we can.
Yep.
It was about 45 minutes later.
Things like animal problems. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to call Johnson County animal. There is no such thing. You just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's kind of unique to living out of the city limits.
The only animal issue we've had, and it's been a long time, was skunks. And if you ever encounter a skunk, you got a real problem,
right?
Because that odor doesn't go away automatically. A stiff breeze won't take it away. So, but we were in pretty good shape otherwise. But I understand now the growth in this county isn't just around us, but it's also around Grandview, around
Mm-hmm.
Joshua, and certainly Godly. Is that right?
Absolutely. And surprisingly enough, most of it's in Ellis County, but Maypearl is just blowing up because of all the people that got out of Arlington and Mansfield. We're moving out in the country in the Midlothian. And now it's blowing up. And so a lot of people are leaving Midlothian and going to like Venus and Maypearl of all places.
Or Covington. Is anybody going out there?
A few people. I know a lot of people that retire to Covington.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot cheaper to live over there.
I've never been in Covington in all the time I've lived here.
Yeah.
I have no need to, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that Grandview is blowing up. And what about Rio Vista? It's kind of like at the tail end of the county. And we know
It is.
You don't really hear about it very much.
I represented a builder that built about 20 houses, one full street in Rio Vista, and it took us a long time to get them sold because we're used to, Burleson, Joshua, that kind of thing, which was hard to sell 25 years ago when I started. And it's just hard to get there right now.
Well, one community I've always thought ran their business pretty well, and I guess it's just from an outsider looking in, I thought Joshua did pretty well, and they have a good school system.
Yes, they do.
But they also had the same problems we do about growth, because I have had on the show people that were supporting a bond issue for Joshua, and they had to go on twice because the first one didn't work.
Right.
It failed, and but their growth is such that I don't know if they're talking about a second high school or anything like that, but I know their elementary schools are very crowded, and and I don't know about Burleson. I haven't talked to the BISD in a little while, so I don't know if there's any thoughts about it, another school or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 12 months, we hear about a possibility of maybe 2 more elementary schools.
Right, yeah, more elementary and maybe another. I don't know if junior high, if there's any more talk about that.
Well, that new one they built, Kerr, is pretty big. They overbuild.
Yeah, it's my neighbor.
Yeah. Well, Kerr over on Hidden Creek, it's like a Centennial. They intentionally overbuild to build for growth. I mean, Centennial still has space. BHS really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And but Kerr is still got room to grow, and so I don't know how long it'll take to fill it. But
well, it's a good thing they did, because it's probably twice as expensive to build now than it was when they finished Centennial for sure. And even Kerr.
It's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
People look at these bond issues like Josh was putting out there, and they said, "How do you need all that kind of money?" Well, it probably has doubled in cost in the last 6-7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Godly's going through that problem, and they, Greg Cooper knows more about this than I do, and I'm going to ask him about their bond issue they had. It was very controversial because it was very large and for such a small community, and so there's a lot of concern about what kind of debt they were taking on and that kind of thing. What about the tax rates here? Are people moving here from other states? A lot of them I know are moving for taxes, but what do you have any thoughts about that property tax debate going on down in Austin? You could say, you want to talk professionally or personally, or
probably both.
Okay.
We all jumped for joy when we got the $100,000 homestead gift, but the values kept going up. So until we do something with values or the actual tax, I mean, you can't just, it's not going to help to do that with the way that the values are coming up. And a big problem and I may be talking out of turn here, I don't know that our appraisal system is as legit as it should be.
Well,
I think that's where some of these guys like Craig Hunley and some of these guys, and I've never, every day in the news, we're talking about abolishing property taxes. And I don't, in my whole 57-year life, I don't ever remember hearing that like I've heard it, in the last 3 or 4 months.
But the only time I ever heard it was from some isolated Republican, so to speak,
Right.
And it was, okay, he got his publicity and nobody really talked. I do have Greg Cooper on March 3rd, who is very conversant in
He's
this.
sharp.
And we're going to talk more about it. And, and we can talk about the ins and outs of it, but, they raised the homestead exemption. And now there's a proposal to raise another.
Up to 140.
140, yeah. And that'd be great. But, is that the issue? I mean, a lot of the people talk about property taxes being a real burden.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Cooper's point is that it is one of the causes that cause people to lose their homes.
Absolutely, because you don't realize any income off of that.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the alternative is, well, how are you going to replace the revenue? And they have plans for that. And is that going to work? And I'll save that for him when he comes on in a couple of weeks. But I just wonder from a realtor's perspective, what do you think about this property tax business?
As far as doing away with it?
Yeah.
I think I would be more excited when I figure out, okay, well, what are we going to do to replace that revenue?
Right.
Is this some way to sabotage the school system? What's the, you can't trust those guys. So what's the ulterior motive?
Right. Because you know how valuable the schools are
Right.
to the whole process. And absolutely. It sounds great because, I pay a decent amount in property taxes, less than I did a couple of years ago because of that increase in the exemption and all that other business. But it's still, it's a decent amount of money. But I do have concerns about where the income. Now, again, Mr. Cooper has a response to that, and I'll let him, give him free time to respond to that. But I'm just thinking about it. Would it accelerate the growth of the real estate market?
It could for a while, because it's going to, one of the things that slowed it down, we can talk about interest rates all we want to, but property taxes, mine are almost $400 a month into my house, into my payment. My taxes and insurance portion of my payment is higher than my principal and interest.
Mine is too. Certainly more than my principal.
Yeah.
That's another conversation. But no, mine, I run about $350 a month. All right. And it was close to $400 before the exemption kicked in. And all I could say is that, I did benefit from the raised exemption. My overall payment did go down. I did get, also, since it was retroactive, I got some money from my escrow account and all that. And all that sounds great, but we have to be responsible and not just go for this, what really is a benefit, and not consider how to mitigate the costs.
It's that the need for that revenue is there.
Yeah.
And we've just got to figure out if it's not going to come from here, it's going to come from here, but there needs to be more transparency in all this stuff. Yes, I got $100,000 homestead exemption, but my value went up to the max, which is 10%. And I guarantee you my house is not worth 10% more than it was last year.
No, that's true. And that's another thing, my taxable property to go up. Kind of on a side note about appraisals, we're talking about two different things. We talk about like what Zillow does or sends me every month, and what the tax people do. And again, I keep bringing this, there's a lot of issues going on with the CAD here in the county, and Mr. Cooper's involved in some of that. And there, some of the members of the board of the Central Appraisal District and all that. So there's a lot of, uncertainty, what's going on around down there with all this. And so that didn't help. But as far as like Zillow and all that, how accurate is that particular estimate? He sends me, or the group sends me every month. Hey, this is how much your house is
estimate. Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
So Texas is still one of the few states that's non-disclosure. So you do not have to tell anybody what you paid for your property. So it's up to these appraisal districts to kind of figure that out. So the Zestimate it's just an algorithm is all it is. And it's really close, but it could be, 4 or 5% one way or the other. So it's not accurate enough, to completely do away with what the work an appraiser does or something like that.
Well, I wouldn't sell my house for what the Zestimate goes for. I mean, it is, it shows me with some equity and all that, but I would still, if I ever put it on the market, I'd probably ask for 10% more than what the Zestimate is, and all that kind of thing. But as far as, this appraisal, when you talk about, concerns with appraisals, you're not talking about those appraisers that work for you when you're trying to buy and sell a house.
Work for the bank.
Yeah, right. You're talking about the appraisers for the district.
That work for the
county.
appraisal district.
Right. Okay, just to make it clear, because I've gone through this more than once. I've gone through a refinance 2 or 3 times and since I've owned that house to pay for school bills and significant home repairs and all this other stuff. And, and then come out the appraiser and like, what? My house is worth a lot more than that.
Yep.
Is there a reason why it's so much lower than what I think it's worth?
As far as what the appraisal district comes up with?
No. I talk about for the bank's appraiser. I'm talking about the private appraiser. Sometimes like, wait, we were worth a lot more than that,
Appraisers work off of history.
Mm-hmm.
So if an appraiser wants to know what my house is worth, okay, well, let's go back 6 months and look at everything that's close in size and age to his house that's within a certain proximity and try to come up with some kind of average and guess if what this guy's asking for his house, if the value of it supports that price.
Oh. I know I've been disappointed.
Right.
It's so has my lender been disappointed. I was dealing with in a previous incarnation. It was Candy Gow and Sammy Joe Campbell when they were working for somebody else, not their own enterprise. And I remember the appraisal come in really low, and she had to get on the phone and say, "Hey, look, Jack,
Yeah, it's almost like a protest. They won't let you call it that anymore. But, they pretty well took that away from us in 2009 when they changed all the laws. Used to the actual, like the loan officer or whoever had their little appraisal people that they would assign it to. And they created these appraisal management companies in the middle. So we've got a middleman now. So the lender, not the loan officer, ABC Mortgage puts this into this appraisal management company. And it's almost like a wheel of fortune. Like they know who the appraisers are, but they don't know which one is gonna get it.
Yeah.
And so that took a lot of that out of it. But it just kind of depends. When the market it'll swing almost over the weekend. When it does, that's when we'll have problems. Right now, we don't really have appraisal problems because it's kind of leveled out.
Yeah, but I when I bought my house, we built our house. Actually, we didn't buy it; we built it. The rates were like almost 9%. And then we refinanced to go down about half of that about 6 years later or 5 years later. And then we, like I said, we refinanced it again for home repairs. We also refinanced it so I can get some equity out of it to pay for my 2 kids' schooling.
Okay.
And all that stuff. So it's been our bank more or less. And so the home is probably, for most of us, certainly in my case, our most valuable asset. It's our main source of wealth. So it's a real big deal what goes on in the real estate market.
Absolutely. And if you go look at the difference in net worth between somebody that owns a home and doesn't, it percentage-wise, it's astounding.
Yeah, and my son has expounded greatly on the difficulty it is for young people to get a home. It is harder. He's 30. He'll be 33 pretty soon, a couple months. He makes good money. He's an engineer. And it's very, very difficult to get into a decent home. I mean, if he wants to live in a shed, he could find something. But if you want to live in a decent home, it's very difficult for people his age.
Especially anywhere around a metro area.
He's in Oklahoma City, but same situation. I mean, it's a growing community
Probably the same as here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, same factors they're dealing with up there. But it just, he's bitter about it. And I don't really blame him. I mean, because, the American ideal was, you go to school, you get a job, you make decent money, you save up a little bit, you buy a decent home, and you just kind of work your way up.
And just keep trading your way up.
Yeah, and he can't get in the market.
Yep. It is so hard to save money now.
Yeah.
For people that are just starting. It just takes a lot longer, and it's going to take longer with the way things are right now.
Yeah.
And median house price here is $425. I checked it on the way in. You know, that's the middle.
That's amazing when you think about it in Burleson.
Mm-hmm.
$425. You know, and not that I was thinking about moving seriously, but we've looked at other communities, Robin and I. It's really more like, you know, what my mom was looking at when she was thinking about buying a house, and also, you know, other places. I wouldn't pay some of that kind of asking price for some of these houses. I mean, it's like $420 for like 1,500 square feet.
You're just your basic house.
Yeah, it's like we're stuck, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wish there was some way to do it. And it's hard to figure out a way that won't be exploited by somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do away with one impediment, somebody's going to be making money off
Absolutely.
that. All right. You know, if like, for example, you do away with property taxes, you know, would it make the rent go down? You like to think so, but you also are counting on the landlords reacting to competition, not keep just pocketing the money.
How are we going to fix roads and build schools without that revenue?
But you know, that's always I'm still on the fence about the property tax in some ways. I'm not on the fence about school vouchers. I am opposed to that.
Me too.
You know, I investigated it. I gave it some thought. You know, what are the complaints of people that want vouchers and whatever else? And I'm thinking what vouchers would do to the real estate market it'd be an impact, definitely, because it no longer would mean that where you live, you're going to be sending your kids to that school system.
Right.
And, but I am opposed to it for a lot of reasons. I know all about choice and I know about competition, and it sounds great, but I think there's going to be a lot of negative fallout that we're not really even talking about or even know to talk about.
You just can't see far enough into the future to know if, I'm not a fan of it either.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of it staying the way it is, but that doesn't look to me like it's going to benefit enough people.
Well, I know Burleson ISD is not, when I think of the public school system and I have complaints about it, I don't think about BISD because, you know, when I was a teacher, you know, I thought they were the craziest people in the world down the street. I thought, what's the matter with these people? And sometimes I was right. Okay. But, you know, I was all focused on room 123 and what was going on there and how it affected me directly and my students directly and all this other stuff. Now that I've been out of the system and I look at it a bit more broadly, I could see, particularly when you compare BISD to other school systems, we're in pretty good shape. You know, we're a pretty good school district and we have a lot to offer. And, you know, is it perfect and make always right decisions? And no, Lord, no. And Dr. Jimerson will be the first to tell you that. But the point is, I think for what we do in Burleson ISD, we offer a great deal more than even what we did 15 years ago when I was in the system. And I think that's great. I hate to break it off. I enjoy talking with you. I enjoy talking about these things, you know, but Tato's got a schedule to keep. And but let's talk about a couple of the things that are going on. I told you this last week about my new cross-promotional relationship with The Journey, 88.3. Rich Hooper and I got together last Wednesday, and we are going to help each other out, so to speak. You know, and tomorrow, by the way, Tuesday morning at 8:40, you'll hear me on the phone with Rich Hooper about what's going on, about shows that we just did and shows that we are doing and things like that. And so he's not going to be playing my show on the air because that's not what they're about. They're a music station. They're not a talk show station. And but you know, it's a Christian music, but you know, Christians want to know what's going on in real estate too.
Absolutely,
You know? Yeah, and that's his whole point was that they want to be informed, that not just, you know, they want the Christian music, uplifting, et cetera, but they also need to know what's going on with the rates. And we didn't even get to that. You know, we got off on all these tangents. But anyway, Rich is been there about a year and a half, and they just hired the program director of KLTY.
Okay.
You know, because they just changed
formats or ownership or something.
They've changed ownership. I don't know if their format's the same. Robin, when she listens to that kind of music, you know, and when I'm in the car with her, I'm listening to that kind of music. Normally, if I'm by myself, I listen to talk show, sports talk, you know, The Fan, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or, yeah, pretty much it. Or I listen to my own station, which I'll get to in a minute. But 88.3 is going to be promoting some shows, and I'm promoting them. And they will produce some mini ads that I'll run on the radio station, which, next slide, please, Community Radio TX, been up and running for about a week now.
It's pretty exciting.
It is. It really is. And we talked about it last week. I hope we had a chance to look at some of the material. And I'm getting some traction, but it's like most other enterprises, brick by brick, customer by customer, if you will. I didn't expect to go on the air last week and it'd be viral.
Right.
But it's getting there a little at a time, and it'll be 2 or 3 months, I think, before people's listening habits may have been adjusted enough to include me in their listening pattern, so to speak. So I'm working on it. But
good.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
When I did it the first time, it was all about music. Now there is the music, but I'm also like to have this show we're doing right now will be on at 5 o'clock today and 1 o'clock tomorrow on the radio station. And Mr. Fletcher's will be on a similar format Tuesday night and Wednesday at 1.
Okay.
And I have the Chamber of Commerce. They have their podcast going on. I have them on later in the week, Wednesday, Thursday mornings. I put them on. As far as some ads, I have had a couple of nonprofits, American Legion and the Wings of Hope, and I got them scheduled and on and on. At 8, 12, 4, and 7:30, I have like a little 5-minute Burleson news, like what's going on. I know the Burleson Library is very busy. Mm-hmm. They got a lot going on with that. And also the Chamber of Commerce got that big showcase. You going to participate in that?
No.
Well, you had to drop by.
Oh, I will. I'll be there.
Yeah, but you remember the chamber.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. On February 22nd, all right, we're going to be participating in the BNI group.
Okay.
And that's always a great thing. But it's, those ladies do a wonderful job.
They do. And this is one of the better chambers that I know of anywhere.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You're not the only one that said that to me. That, when I talked about the chamber, they said, they do a wonderful job. Sarah and Melissa really very enthusiastic and energetic. Mm-hmm. And when they come on the show, I tease them about being like Lucy and Ethel.
Lucy and Ethel?
Yeah. So I wonder if that'll stick.
It might.
But, they got a lot going on. Also, both Reach across Johnson County and the library are doing what they call prom pop-ups to donate used prom clothing, dresses, shoes, tuxedos, whatever. And I can tell you as a former teacher, prom is a big deal.
Oh, sure.
And it's not something that you take lightly. Anyway, but tomorrow I have Mr. Fletcher. What I got on next week? Let's see what I got. I better look at the schedule because it's going to be busy. Next Monday I have Harvest House, and then I have Shandy is going to be talking about Re-Inspire. And then I have a special edition a week from Thursday with Jennifer Woods talking about her new venture she's got going on. And she's also now a chaplain, I believe, at Hughley.
Yeah, I saw it. She had a picture of her little badge on a while ago. I saw that when I was coming in.
Yeah. Taylor,
Yes, sir.
you stay out of trouble the best you can.
I will do my very best.
Okay. And thank y'all for dropping in. So tell us what you want, how people can contact you, what you want to tell them.
Call me on my cell phone, 817-781-0546. We've got property values coming out soon. If I could help you with comparable sales to maybe do your protest, be glad to do that. Reach out. Or just anything real estate related. I promise I won't. I rarely bite people anymore. I like to help people any chance I can.
Yes, I've healed up nicely.
Yeah, that's good. Yep, anything real estate related I can help with, I'm always glad to do that.
How much time do you spend in the Wethington Agency building? I would imagine you're on the road a lot.
Mostly in the car.
Yeah.
I do maintain an office there, so I'm in there a couple of days a week.
Yeah,
it just kind of depends on what else is going on.
All right. But so the phone's the best way to get you.
Absolutely.
All right. One more time.
817-781-0546.
All right.
Yep.
All right. And we will see y'all tomorrow with Mr. Chris Fletcher.